Hey, church. It's nice on Kids Sunday, isn't it? I love doing things a little bit differently. Makes you take notice when we, get out of our normal routine. If you haven't picked up on it yet, today's theme is the heart of the church. And because we are doing things a little bit differently, instead of the traditional sermon or talk, we're going to hear from four of us about our experiences of what the heart of the church is, how we've been blessed by the church, and just a little bit about ourselves and our testimony. So I'm up first. Can be a surprise who's following me. I won't give that away. Okay, so I'm Jess. I always struggle introducing myself. I was talking to Beck and Lauren about this last night. I always go by, who I'm connected to, who I'm related to. So I'm Joel's wife, I'm Catherine's daughter, and I'm Hazel and Finn's mum. I spend my days looking after my kids. I also work in the Salvo's fundraising team with Andrew. I like hanging out with my family and friends. But that's all a bit boring. So I was like, how can I say something a bit quirky, a bit different about me? So here's some really random things that you may or may not know about me. I can rap the entire Macklemore's Can't Hold Us song. Okay, Joel told me that would happen, and I said, if you donate $100 to my digital donut page, I'll give you a private performance later on. My favourite TV show is Ted Lasso. Highly recommend it. What else? I like playing sport, but was very uncoordinated as a child. My parents persisted a lot with that. And then something about my childhood, which is a bit unusual or a bit quirky. I have always loved my sleep. I still do. And Mum used to tell me that in kindergarten she'd come to pick me up from school and I'd still be asleep in the reading corner at the end of the day. And a few of my friends here who have known me since I was a teenager, I've ruined many a camp or weekend away by kicking everyone out of the cabin at about 9:30 so that I could get my 8 hours sleep. That's a little bit about me. I'm going to share a little bit of my testimony. So I grew up with Christian parents who were very involved at a church. So I have been blessed by the church my entire life. I would say it wasn't until I was about 17 or 18 where I was probably questioning my faith and all of the things I'd learnt at church. And I'd been invited to be a part of 2 Bible studies led by 2 amazing women, Kim Hill, who's here, and Lisa Sims, who's enjoying holidays. Anyway, so I was wrestling with that. And is this for me? Do I believe what my parents have told me? Do I believe everything I've learnt in Sunday school? And I had my probably first ever real God encounter. It's tricky to describe, but both Lisa and Kim, in separate times, unbeknownst to them, spoke words of life over me and said pretty much an identical phrase. And I thought, oh, wow, I think while my mind still can't really get there, this is enough for me, and I'm going to make that leap of faith. And then over time, as an adult, I found it's moments where I've gone through hardship or suffering that my faith has been strengthened and I've grown deeper in my relationship with God. It's moments where you can't do it through your own strength, because that's always my first port of call, is I'm going to see if I can fix this myself. And if I can't, that's when I'm forced to rely on God. And it's in those moments where I found my faith has really grown and deepened. And one of the learnings that I've really I try and remind myself of constantly, is that God is in the waiting with us. It's a lyric in one of my favourite songs, God is in the waiting. And I love that it's not just we're waiting on our own, waiting for God to come through at the end, and we always hope and pray that we get that happy ending, the miracle. That's very welcomed. But actually, I take so much comfort in knowing that God is with me in the waiting, in those uncomfortable moments. And it's been my experience that God has used people in the church to talk to me and give me words of encouragement and, just timely reminders in those times. So my heart of the church kind of area that I wanted to talk about today I don't know if it's the right word. Joel told me it's discipleship. I just think it's so cool that God has invited humans to partner with him. And, we're looking at the Acts church and all the different hearts of the church that come from that book of Acts. And for me, it's the story of Ananias that really stands out. So obviously Saul had this, miraculous encounter with God, and there was this blinding light and he was blinded. And I think, God, why didn't you just reverse that again to, fix the problem? And he didn't do that. He chose to invite a human to get involved. He chose to let Ananias come in and get involved and do something, be part of that story. And that's just something that I'm so kind of amazed by and encouraged by. And that's my experience of the church, is I've had so many people like Ananias who I think were listening to God and obedient to the promptings and spoke words of life over me. So that's just what I was really encouraged by, and it's something that I think I'm challenged by to be that for other people as well. That's my heart of the church.
Surprise. I love how Beck said the young people are running church today. Thanks for that. Made me feel great. Gee, I got chosen to talk. Good morning, church. Now, you can tell my demographic, it's not on the phone, it's on paper, and I've enlarged it. So, and I just, No, it's the teacher in me. I'm just come prepared. Not that Jess wasn't prepared, but this is my, bullet points. I don't want to miss anything. But, thanks. I'm feeling young today, actually. I don't assume that everybody knows me, even though I've been around here a very long time. So here's a bit about me. I'm Rob. And yes, just like Jess, I identify, with the people in my life. So I'm married to the beautiful Alison, who's sitting over here. I have 3 adult children and 1 son-in-law. Yes, that's a recent... Yeah. Sorry, no, I'm over that. Yeah. Maddie, Dylan and Savannah are my gorgeous kids. They're all adults now. I'm a primary school teacher, and I have been for over 37 years. I don't look that old, do I? Actually been teaching for that long. When I wrote that number down, I thought, oh my gosh. Like, seriously, you don't get that long for murder these days. You're like, oh. And I've probably felt like doing that to some kids along the way, but let's be real for all the teachers in the room. Anyway, I work over at St George Christian School, and that's been a huge blessing. To be able to talk about my faith, to pray with kids, read the Bible while I'm working, that's gold. Prayer times with staff. God knew what he was doing when he put me at that school. My kids say, Dad, back when you're a normal classroom teacher, that means I'm actually the PE specialist now. So for over about 25 years, I had my own classes. Now I teach all classes, K to 5, PE lessons, run the entire sports program in the junior school. I've got other roles and responsibilities, but it's not about that this morning. I grew up in Kingsgrove, not far from Bexley North Station. 3 brothers, 2 older, 1 younger. Went to Salvo's church at Rockdale every weekend. Never missed, weren't allowed to play soccer on Sundays. Some of you oldies understand that, but we played on Saturdays, we played hard. Played in the brass band, was involved in all the different programs that were offered. Sometimes felt like we lived at the Salvos. I loved playing soccer, played for 40 years, did an ACL, all that good gear that you do. I love going on beach holidays, competing in athletics, and running fast was my thing. I don't run anymore, sadly, but I walk. Now, a highlight as a kid, I loved playing soccer, and as a 12-year-old, our school went in the New South Wales Public Schools Soccer Knockout Championships, and we won the whole dang thing. 7 games. If you lost, you were gone. We made the finals, and yours truly scored the winning goal. We were the state champions. Yeah, I know, right? Woo! It's my claim to fame, and it's a highlight I'll take to my deathbed. Yeah. These days, I don't run, I just walk. But I do plenty of that. I love surfing with some mates on Saturday mornings. I enjoy bushwalking. I also like to spend time with friends over a meal and chatting about life stuff. Sadly, don't get enough time to do that, but I do enjoy that. I have a very rich Christian heritage. All four of my grandparents were faithful Jesus followers, both my parents. In fact, two of them were even Salvation Army officers. So looking back in my family history, there's a lot of good examples and role models, and not that makes me a Christian, right? So I had to make my own decision about that. So my personal faith journey really began as an 8-year-old when I felt God tug at my heart to make a decision to follow him in a Sunday night service. Yes, we had them back then, Sunday night services. Twice on Sunday, actually, for many years. Since then, my journey's been one of consistent and steady growth. Of course, there's been the temptations and the challenges, and there have been times when I haven't felt particularly close to God, and I know that's times when I've sort of turned my back on him. He hasn't left me, but the key thing for me, the discipline of my Bible reading and my prayer have actually been that valuable part of helping to bring me back to where I need to be in my relationship with him. I say discipline because sometimes it can be a chore, but I think the important thing for me, at least, is to be in that habit and allowing yourself to step into that space where God can, really tap you on the shoulder. I find that in my conversations with God, the times when I'm most real and honest with him are the times when I feel the closest connection with him. So I don't pretend that everything's okay. I pour it out to him. I get very real sometimes. Alice and I have actually been worshipping here at Shire Salvos for around 25 years. That's quite a long time. Our children were born into this church. It's been our spiritual home for all that time. So I sort of think I know this church well, although like a lot of churches, it's grown, it's changed, things, aren't always the same. But I think the two things that I really value in our church are community and ministry. For me, that's the heart of our church. And for me, they go hand in hand, as I believe participating in ministry opportunities helps build community. So in terms of community, Lincoln actually said this, or was it Campbell? I believe our church is very inclusive. I'm able to have conversations with many varied people, and I always feel accepted, valued, and understood. We are all different. Some more different than others. Just probably a joke that fell flat, but anyway. But I know from talking with various peoples in our congregation, that they do feel included. They might see themselves as quite different to others, but they still feel included. I know people in our church who make the effort to include others in our community by inviting them for meals, going on outings together, or just hanging out. We're definitely a multi-generational church community that looks out for each other, and we definitely have an inclusive attitude. In terms of ministry, I've always maintained the perspective that I need to contribute to my church community. So I've consistently looked for opportunities to be involved and to give back to my church community, and to help build God's kingdom here locally. So at the moment, one of my main ministries is down in Miranda at Soul Food. Love going there on a Thursday night. There, I'm able to build relationships through conversations, sharing stories, and just generally encouraging people in their own life journey and their own faith journey. I find this particularly rewarding. So to finish off, I'd like to leave you with one of my life verses, not because it's specifically related to anything that I said this morning, but it's a wonderful promise from the Lord, and that is Isaiah 41:10. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Thank you.
Hello, church. Surprise. Number 3. For those that don't know me, my name is Lauren, otherwise known as Mark's wife, or a very patient lady. Zoe, Emmy, and Jude's mum. I get that most days, which is a privilege. But some random facts about me. I was trying to think, what don't you know about me? I think many of you probably know me quite well. And so here's a few things that you might not know about me. I'm actually the middle child of my family. Any other middle children? Yeah, we are the survivors. We are the legends. You don't want to be the youngest. You don't want to be the youngest. As a child, I was actually very shy. I love baking, which I think some of you might know. I only ever read non-fiction books. I don't know if I've just lost some friends, but hopefully not. I enjoy going to Pilates. I like dancing in the kitchen. I know Kim does too. It's always fun. I do like eating chocolate. So last night, the girls' night was a winner for me. That was good. And I can do my whole weekly grocery shop at Aldi in 20 minutes. Yeah. If you need some tips, come and see me. I've got it down to a fine art. All right. So I first heard about Jesus when I was quite young. My parents chose to follow God, and so I went with them to church. I went to kids' church, I went to youth group, and all those kind of things. But it was while I was in youth group, I was in year 8, if I remember right, that I needed to decide whether this was going to be just my parents' faith or whether this was actually going to be a decision of choosing Jesus for my life. Well, I chose Jesus for myself, but it's been a choice that I've had to continue to make throughout my life. There have been lots of times where I've been intentional and focused on God, praying, reading the Bible, coming to church, choosing His ways in my thoughts and my actions. But to be honest, there's also been many times where I haven't chosen God too. In fact, I've been too busy for God. I've chosen not to invest in my relationship and instead just to do my own thing and to live life my own way. At times, I've not really felt like coming to church either. Looking back, these times of my life, I probably felt most disconnected from God and from others as well. My life, I felt like it was frustrated and I lacked joy. But what got me through those times was when I would do the simple little things again. It got my perspective and my spark back. It was worship music on in the house, in the car. It was a short devotion that would help me reflect on just one verse. And these things reminded me who God was, but it also reminded me who I was as well. Another thing that has gotten me through some of these desert times have been you, my church family, our community. It was the encouragement or the checking in or how are you really going conversations that really helped me. So when I think about what the heart of church is for me, it's 2 things. It's worshiping God together and it's community. Church is not just the building. It's actually us. It's you and it's me. We are the church. If our building wasn't here, then we would just find somewhere new to meet, right? It's the community of people here that we have that are the church. Why am I part of church? Why am I a part of this church? And this is a question that I've been pondering over the last few weeks. As many of you know, I'm a teacher, and I've been looking at how we express our faith with my year 7s and my year 8s. Things like teaching them how to pray, how do we read the Bible, what's the beauty of community, what's mission, what's worship. Many of my students don't go to church regularly. Some have never been to church. And so I've been thinking about, all right, how do I share with them what church is like? What do I say to them that actually says, yeah, you're missing out. It's the best. You've got to get there. So I come to a church for a number of reasons. For me, it's a chance to connect with others who also believe and love God. It helps me stay on track. It helps me learn more about God and serve others. But I also come to church because I love the community here. It's one of a kind, isn't it? In the Bible, in Matthew 22, in Mark 12, and then Luke 10, there's a story where we see Jesus being quizzed by this scribe or a lawyer. And this was someone who knew God's laws of the day pretty well. And they asked Jesus, what's the most important commandment? What's the most important rule we should follow? And Jesus says, love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbour as yourself. What was Jesus reminding us? It was to simply love God and to love others. I've always based my faith in Jesus around these two things. It's pretty simple, isn't it? Now, our church community is not perfect, and we may not always feel like loving others, but I do think it's a great training ground for working at loving each other. I've always based in our church community, I constantly get glimpses of people loving God and loving others well. I love that our church community here looks for ways to bless those around us in the Shire and beyond with food or even furniture to meet their needs. I love watching the generations, the Betty Dawn in her 90s and the Ellie Pollard 5, having a lovely chat on a Sunday morning. It's beautiful. Even as I walked out to the toilet before, here's Michelle Wheatley on the floor with Mackenzie, just chatting about life with her. It's just beautiful. I love how the youth group leaders, you invest into my kids, and that's been over many years. You've watched them grow, but you invest into them and you care for them. Tristan Bray, I love when you come alongside Jude and you actually get to know him. I love that. I love that our church is so practical. Meals when we had babies, how good is that? Maybe I should have a fourth. But it's so good, right? Wisdom from so many of you about parenting and life decisions that I need in my life. But I love that our church doesn't just talk about it, we actually live it. I love that. Why am I a part of church? Why am I part of this church? Because it equips me for my Monday through to Saturday. I see it as a gathering together, breathing in God, His word, worshipping together, inhaling. Then I see as we leave the exhale, breathing God's love, being His hands and His feet to every part of the world around us. So it's the inhale together and it's the exhale as we leave. The heart of the church is ultimately love. It's love for God and it's love for others. I really do keep it simple. And with God's help and our focus firmly fixed on Him, I think we can all do that.
I'm just loving hearing about everyone, aren't you guys? Getting to know everyone a little bit better. So, hi church. A lot of you might know me as Beck, and you would know me as obviously the children's person here. I often up here leading kids' time and doing things like that. Some of you would know me a lot, and some would just know me a little, like in my role here at church. So I thought just share a little bit about me in case you didn't know. I wasn't born into a Christian home, so I guess I have a different lived experience in my life discovering Jesus later on. A little snapshot of me was that I was born in New Zealand 48 years ago, and I was born to a young teenage mum. Times were very different back then, and so I was actually given up for adoption. And so the family that I have now adopted me in the 70s as a baby, and I have 4 brothers in that family. Which is great. I love my brothers very much. I definitely could share some traumatic stories of having 4 brothers, but I do believe that it has made me the person I am today, and they say that I'm very resilient because of it. So they often say to Clara, you should thank us. We knocked a lot of the sensitive parts out of her. That's been an interesting journey in itself. And then my family that adopted me, unfortunately, broke up when I was like a toddler. So I have had like numerous sort of stepdads, stepmums, and stepbrothers. So there's a lot of complicated relationships in there. A lot of the times were very good though. But me being a people pleaser, those people in the room that are also people pleasers, it was a lot of work as a child to keep everyone happy. Like I took on that role, I suppose, to be like the glue between everyone. And I think that probably has contributed to what has made me me today, and there has brought me the reason why I do a number of things. We lived with my mum here in Australia when she moved here with one of my stepdads, but then we did return to New Zealand 3 times a year for every school holidays, and then we lived with him and his family in those school holidays. So neither of the families went to church, but I had different values and different ways of households ran, right? So I suppose early on, it was very important to me that I knew I wanted different in my life moving forward. So I didn't know what that was, but I knew I wanted different. When I was about 8 years old, my stepdad left and my mum was left with no money. And I received help from the Salvation Army. We received a hamper and financial assistance in New Zealand, in a little country town. And there I was told about Jesus. I was invited to their local church. And back then you could go on the Sunday school bus. So your parents didn't even have to go to church with you. A bus would come and pick me and my brothers up. So it was really free childcare for a single mum. I mean, it seems crazy. You would never do that nowadays. But a man would pick us up on the bus and we would go to church. But that is where I heard about Jesus. So also just to fill in that 21 years ago, I married an amazing guy, Clarel. He's not here today. He's a shift worker, so he's not always here, unfortunately. And we have a beautiful daughter, Charlotte, who, of course, is life joy to us. I love experiences like holidays, going to concerts, shows, doing things, much more than buying things. I love doing things rather than just being. And I love my job here in ministry at this church. I was never really going to do any sort of ministry role. I just wanted to be part of a church, invest in a church. When Mark rang me and told me about this job, I said, look, it's not me. It's probably not for me. I don't see it in my future. And he said, let's just have a coffee and have a chat, you know. And here I am, like 7 years later, still I walked away thinking, yeah, no, I think I might be interested in doing this. And God worked his sort of miracles there. But I love being here. I love working for the church and the community. I love creating community. I love serving the community for Jesus. And so as I mentioned, I first heard about Jesus when we received financial assistance from the Salvos. I was told by going along to their their Sunday school, I was told the story of Jesus, and it was where I learned everything from the Bible. I learned 10 Commandments, miracles, learned how to pray and love. And most importantly, I found people who invested in me, and I found a place to belong, which I think, as I've shared some of my past, that was a really healing part of my journey. A place not just to belong, but to share community with. I've always stayed a person of faith since I was a child and making that decision, though there are many times in my life that I didn't necessarily do gathered community and come along to a church for various different reasons. I've tried many different things to stay connected to God, and it really has depended on the season of life of what I have done, like life groups or journeying with others, in going to conferences, worshipping, coming to church, reading, listening to podcasts. You know, I do it all, and it depends on the season. And very similar to Lauren, sometimes there's those times when you're in the desert and it's a bit mundane. You've had to sort of pull yourself out by just gradually doing things repeatedly and really pressing into God. The Bible tells us to meet together. In Hebrews it says, and let us consider how to spur one another on to love and good deeds. Let us not neglect meeting together as some are in the habit. Let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. And the Acts 2 church tells us how God would love to see the church. It says, they joined with the other believers and devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship, sharing in the Lord's Supper and in prayer. A deep sense of awe came over them, and all of the apostles performed many miraculous signs and wonders. And all the believers met together constantly and shared everything they had. They sold their possessions and shared the proceeds with those in need. They worshipped together at the temple each day. I just love that. meeting in the Lord's homes for the Lord's Supper. We all love gathering and eating together, don't we? We share meals with great joy and generosity, all the while praising God and enjoying the goodwill of the people. And each day the Lord added to that group those who were being saved. So when I was thinking about the heart of the church, there's so much that I love about the church. I immediately thought of fellowship. We're here, we have people in our lives who know Jesus. They know where we're at. We meet together and we talk spiritual stuff together. We meet with others and we break bread. The prayer, the church praying together. Individually, corporately, meeting here before we even gather. People gathered and prayed for us this morning. We thank God for so many things and for the opportunities. And there's many times in my life that prayer has carried me through some very hard times. Generosity. Obviously, we have celebrated today the generosity of this church and how much we help by giving and serving others. And this church wouldn't be itself without being evangelistic, being around people, ministering and praying and serving people to show God's love. As someone who wasn't from a Christian home, as I've shared, I would have to pick connection and community to be a big part of the heart of the church for me. I just believe we're wired for connection, and it was where I personally found the place to belong, and I found faith and love. People invited me to their homes when, my family didn't attend. I was sort of, adopted into other families to be Sunday families with them, and we broke bread together and fellowshipped. As many as you know, which not everyone might know, but our daughter Charlotte, when she was born, she had a really rare childhood cancer. And that was a very hard time for our family. And we were just lost. We were broken. We were numb, like we were first-time parents. And I don't think we could have got through it how we did without our faith community with us. There was, prayer didn't fix the immediate moment, it was a long journey, but it helped us survive, get through so much. People checking in with us, the practical supports. We had meals, we had people visiting at the hospital. We were there for months. It was a long journey. Someone I didn't even know, but associated with our church, paid our mortgage for a little while because we weren't working. And I will just never forget that. And I do believe that has shaped our family and how we live now. We live very much in the moment, making the most of everything, and giving back now that we are in a position to give back and help people like that. So I suppose I just wanted to finish and say thank you, because the church is a place where I have grown, I have been encouraged, and in the very hard times, it's just been a place that has offered support and hope because of God. And just before we sing together, I wanted to share a thing I found on the Bible app about the church. What is the church? The church is the people of God, powered by the Holy Spirit, guided by the Word, working for the glory of His name. This is the church. The church is the people. The church is not a monument, it's a movement. It is not just a building, it's a body. It's not an accessory, it's a necessity. This is the church. The church is where all kinds of people from all kinds of places come together to forsake their sins. And we worship our Saviour, where the lost are found and the helpless find help, where brothers and sisters can find love and acceptance from each other. This is the church, where the disciples of Jesus are built up in faith. The church is where the gospel is. The church is where grace is. The church is where God is. The church is you. The church is me. The church is all of us. This is the church.